At brunch, my mom smirked and said, "You're lucky we even include you. Pity goes a long way." My aunt sipped her mimosa and added, "Let him feel special." I just smiled, finished my coffee, and said nothing. That night, I contacted my lawyer, listed the family cabin for sale, and pulled my authorization from the shared credit pool. 2 weeks later, they woke up to notices, cancellations, and a group chat flooded with panic. Then my brother called, screaming. The moment I walked through the door, Jack laughed and said I looked like I just crawled out of a donation bin. My mom didn't even glance at me before commenting that I must have finally remembered what a razor was for. My aunt just smiled behind her mimosa like it was all part of the entertainment. They didn't invite me to brunch because they missed me. They invited me because they needed a target. The dining room was staged like a magazine spread. Fancy napkins, champagne flutes, some overpriced candle burning in the corner. I sat down at the empty spot, the only one without a name card. Jack raised his glass and said something about me finally earning a seat at the grown-ups table. I didn't react. I was used to it. I poured myself coffee and tuned out most of what they said. They gossiped about relatives I hadn't seen in years, about Jack's promotion, his new car, and how proud everyone was. I just nodded when appropriate and chewed my eggs. It was always like this. I showed up, I stayed quiet, and I paid when they forgot their wallets. Then, right as I was reaching for the last piece of toast, my mom turned to me with that smirk I knew too well. "You're lucky we even include you. Pity goes a long way." My aunt sipped her drink and added, "Let him feel special." I didn't even blink. I finished my coffee, smiled, and said nothing. That night, I opened my laptop and didn't hesitate. I emailed my lawyer. I pulled the paperwork for the family cabin out of the fireproof box in my closet, the one they always called our little getaway. Except it wasn't ours. It was mine. My name on the deed. My credit that saved it when Dad almost lost it in 2009. They treated it like their summer escape, but I paid the taxes and the maintenance. They never even offered. Then I logged into our shared credit pool, the one I built with my excellent credit score, so we could manage big family expenses. I was the anchor. I was the one they leaned on. I revoked every permission, pulled every link to my accounts, and canceled every auto payment. I didn't tell anyone. I waited. 2 weeks later, the panic started. First, Jack noticed his card got declined while trying to pay for bottle service. Then, the family group chat lit up. Mom asking why her payment bounced for the utilities, Dad saying the cabin's insurance lapsed. Then came the cable, the lawn service, the cleaning lady, the vacation rental. They tried calling. I didn't answer. Jack finally got through. He went straight to yelling. Said I embarrassed him in front of his friends. Said I was ruining everything just because I couldn't take a joke. He told me to fix it. I hung up. Mom texted at midnight asking if I was okay. I didn't reply. I just sat there remembering the way they laughed that morning. How easily they turned me into the punchline. How they needed me to carry everything, but never once treated me like I mattered. I'd been their safety net for years. Now they'd find out what it's like without one. After Jack's little tantrum on the phone, everything went quiet. No calls, no texts, nothing. The group chat was dead. Not even one of those fake friendly memes my mom usually sends when she wants to paper over something awful. Just silence. I think they thought I'd cave, that I'd feel bad for overreacting, that I'd come crawling back with some apology about misinterpreting their jokes. That was their usual playbook. But this time I didn't bite. Instead, I took a drive up to the cabin. It was early in the morning, fog still clinging to the trees like cobwebs. I hadn't been there in over a year. Everything looked the same. Chipped porch railing, rust on the mailbox, the front steps sagging just a bit more than before. I stood in the middle of the living room and took it all in. The couch I bought, the photos I printed and hung, the firewood I chopped that nobody else ever bothered to replenish. It was my cabin in every way that counted. I called my lawyer that afternoon, told him I was ready to move forward with listing, quietly, discreetly, and with my name only. He said it wouldn't take long. 2 days later, my dad showed up. He didn't text or call ahead, just knocked like nothing had happened, like he hadn't spent the last 2 decades treating me like the background character in my own family. He held a six-pack and said he thought we should talk. I opened the door, looked him in the eye, and told him I was busy. Then I closed it. He stood out there for a few more seconds. Then he left. That night, I went deeper. I logged into every shared account they'd linked to me over the years. The phone plan Jack was on for 6 years without ever paying a dime. The family Netflix, the Spotify family account, all of it, canceled, removed, replaced passwords, locked it all down. They didn't even know half the stuff was under my name until it started vanishing. By Monday morning, the panic began. Mom texted first, something vague about the Wi-Fi not working. Then she asked if I changed something. No question marks, just passive aggression wrapped in confusion. An hour later, she sent another one. Was this about what I said at brunch? I was joking. Don't be so sensitive. Then the crying emoji, then a heart. Jack texted too. Said I was being immature, that I was blowing things out of proportion, that we're family and family forgives. But forgiveness had always gone one way. That night, I finally responded. I told them I'd removed all my financial ties to the household, that I wasn't going to be their backup plan anymore, that if they needed something fixed, they could call someone else. I reminded them of the $4,000 they still owed me from last year. The money I gave them when Jack's insurance scam almost caught up with him, and they begged me not to let him get arrested. They promised it was temporary, a month max. That was 16 months ago. I told them I wanted it back, $4,000. No interest, no wiggle room, due at the end of the month. I gave them a deadline and nothing else. By the next morning, I had 6 missed calls from my mom, 2 from my dad, and 3 voicemails from Jack. He went from yelling to pleading in the span of 2 minutes. Said he couldn't hang out with his friends anymore because his cards weren't working. Said his girlfriend was pissed. Said this wasn't fair. None of it mattered. On Wednesday, I emailed them a spreadsheet. It had one line. Outstanding balance $4,000, due July 31st. No extensions, no discussions, no exceptions. Mom called that night crying. Said she felt like I was tearing the family apart. Said they never meant to hurt me. Said they were just joking. That I was always so sensitive. I reminded her how Jack used to joke about me being adopted. How she used to joke that I should have been a lawyer so I could finally contribute something real. How Dad once said after a bad Thanksgiving that it was a shame all that therapy didn't make me less difficult to be around. None of them had ever apologized. But now that they needed something, now they were sorry. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just told her what I should have told them years ago. You don't get to treat me like an afterthought and still expect me to show up when things fall apart. Then I hung up. I don't think I've ever felt more clear in my life. By the end of the week, they realized I was serious. The shift in tone was immediate. Jack stopped yelling. My dad stopped pretending he didn't care. My mom started calling every day like we were best friends. All of a sudden, I was the most important person in the family again. It was pathetic. She called Tuesday morning and left a voicemail about how the washing machine broke. Said she didn't know how to schedule a repair without my help. Wednesday, it was the water bill. Apparently, they'd forgotten how to log into the account since I'd managed it for years. Thursday, she sent a photo of Jack standing next to his car with the hood open. Said something about how I always knew how to figure these things out. They didn't say sorry. They didn't offer to pay me back. They just wanted it all to go back to normal. That same evening, I got a message from my aunt, the same one who smirked during brunch like she was watching a live sitcom. She said the whole thing had gone too far, that I needed to think about what kind of woman I wanted to be. Said I was hurting people who loved me. I almost laughed. They were all hurting now. And the truth was, it didn't even take much. Just a few logins, a few documents, a few digital scissors to cut every cord they had tied around my neck. I hadn't yelled, hadn't lashed out, hadn't burned anything down. I just stopped giving, and that was enough to unravel everything. I got the $4,000 on Friday, wired from my dad's account with a 2-word note. We're square. They thought that was the end of it, like settling the debt would buy them a clean slate. It didn't. That same night, I submitted the final documents for the cabin listing. It was going on the market the following week. I didn't tell anyone. On Saturday, Jack tried again. He showed up at my place with 2 six-packs and some nonsense about siblings fixing things. Said he missed how things used to be. Said it was stupid that we were fighting over a couple of jokes. I let him sit there on the porch rambling until he realized I wasn't going to respond. Then he stood up, tried to make it about me again, called me bitter, dramatic, impossible to deal with. I closed the door while he was mid-sentence. Later that night, I got a final text from him. Said he hoped I enjoyed being alone, that the rest of the family was moving on without me. They weren't. I could see it in the way they kept circling. Mom dropping passive-aggressive messages about how we all make mistakes. Dad asking if I'd reconsider handling the property taxes just one last time. Jack trying to act like nothing ever happened when he needed a ride to pick up his car. I ignored all of it. The more they tried to pretend nothing had changed, the more obvious it was how much had. They needed me. Not because they loved me, but because they had built their lives on the idea that I would always be there. Quiet, reliable, invisible. But I wasn't that person anymore, and they weren't ready for what was coming next. The listing went live on a Monday morning. I watched it happen from my kitchen table with a coffee in hand, barely blinking as the photo of the cabin appeared online. Wide porch, green shutters, maple trees all around it. The same place where I'd spent countless weekends cleaning, fixing, mowing, while everyone else just showed up with coolers and walked in like they owned it. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. By noon, my phone was vibrating nonstop. I didn't even have to look. I knew. My mom called 4 times before I silenced it. Then came the group chat. My aunt was the first to notice. She sent a screenshot of the listing and added, "What is this?" Like she hadn't sat there smirking when I got humiliated over pancakes. Then my mom chimed in with something about, "You can't be serious." Then a crying emoji. It wasn't until one of her old church friends messaged her, someone I barely even remembered, that she really lost it. Apparently, the woman saw the listing on Facebook and assumed my mom was downsizing. When she replied that she didn't know anything about it, the woman asked if everything was okay and whether they needed help. That's what sent her spiraling. The next voicemail she left me was almost unintelligible. Between crying and gasping, she said I was tearing the family apart, that I was acting like a stranger, that people were asking questions, and she didn't know what to say. I didn't reply. That night, my dad sent me a single text. "Call me." No, I didn't. Instead, I went to bed and slept better than I had in weeks. The next day, Jack went full meltdown. He blew up the group chat with screenshot after screenshot. The listing, the price, the agent's contact, a message from one of his friends asking if they could rent it for a guy's trip. He tagged me with 6 question marks, then sent another message a few hours later calling me a snake. Said I had no right. Said I was selfish, vindictive, and unstable. I blocked him. I blocked them all. Phone, email, socials, cut. I knew what was coming next. The guilt campaign, the emotional blackmail, the "you've changed" speeches. And I was right. On Thursday, they showed up, both of them. Mom, Dad, and behind them, unexpectedly, Jack's girlfriend, Amanda. That stopped me. I opened the door slightly. Amanda stepped forward. She said she wasn't here for Jack, that she didn't even tell him she was coming, that she wanted to talk. Just me and her. She said she'd seen the listing and didn't believe it at first. Jack had always told her the cabin was his, that he'd taken it over after Dad retired, that he handled the expenses and taxes, that it was his family's legacy, and he was keeping it alive. Then the week before, she was looking for a charger in his desk and found the original deed. My name, my payments, my signature. She confronted him, and it all unraveled. Every lie, every exaggeration, every story he told to look like the golden sun. She said she was done with him. She just thought I deserved to know. Then she apologized and walked away. I looked at my parents. They just stood there unsure of what to say. I told them I'd already arranged the payout. They'd get their $20,000. Jack would get nothing. My dad tried to speak. Something about betrayal, about how things like this should be discussed as a family. I said it had been discussed for years. They just weren't listening. I closed the door. That night, I got the confirmation email. Offer accepted. Sale in process. Closing in 3 weeks. The cabin was gone, just like that. And I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. The cabin officially sold on a Thursday morning. I watched the email come in while I was on a Zoom call at work. It was a short message from the title company confirming the transfer and deposit. That was it. Just a few lines of legalese and a number that hit my bank account 30 minutes later. It was strange how quiet the moment was, considering what it represented. I closed the email, walked into the kitchen, made coffee, and sent a single wire transfer, $20,000, straight to my parents' joint account. I didn't include a message. I figured they'd figure it out. And if they didn't, even better. It only took an hour. My mom called first. I let it ring. Then came the second call, then a third. Then a string of messages, each one more unhinged than the last. She said I couldn't be serious, that the cabin wasn't just a property, it was part of the family. She said she was going to call the realtor directly. She said she was going to get her lawyer involved. There was no lawyer. At 4:32 p.m., my dad texted me. "We need to talk. You're making a mistake." I sent him a one-line reply. "The sale is complete. You've been paid." I knew the group chat would light up next. They always did damage control as a team. Sure enough, by dinner it was a mess. My aunt chimed in first, the same one who told me to let him feel special while sipping her mimosa like she was judging a wine contest. She said I was acting out, that this wasn't me, that I was better than this. Then Jack jumped in. He started with, "You can't be a king serious," and spiraled from there. Screenshots, messages from his friends, something about how they were planning a ski weekend next month. How now he looked like a liar. He said I ruined everything because I couldn't handle being the least successful person at brunch. I didn't say anything. I waited until the morning, and then I dropped the final card. Cabin sold. Title transferred. Your share, $20,000 has been paid. Don't contact me about it again. Also effective immediately. I've permanently revoked my consent from the Family Credit Fund. The bank has been notified. Access is removed. You are not authorized to use my name or score for anything ever again. I sent it. I left the chat. I turned off my phone. What followed was exactly what I expected, except for one part I didn't see coming. Jack didn't call that night or the next day. But on Sunday afternoon, someone buzzed at my door. It was Jack, and he looked like hell. Dark circles, wrinkled shirt, hands in his pockets like he didn't know what to do with them. He didn't yell, didn't act fake. He just said he was screwed, said Amanda was gone, that he couldn't get approved for a new lease, that all the cool friends had stopped answering his messages, that he needed my help. Not wanted, needed. He said we were still family, still siblings, that maybe we didn't always get along, but we had to look out for each other. I asked him where that idea was during all those years he let me clean up his messes. He didn't answer. I told him I wasn't here to clean up anymore, that he could either learn how to stand on his own or keep falling, that I didn't hate him, but I wasn't going to save him. Then I told him something he'd never heard before. You don't get to treat people like trash and still expect their loyalty. He looked at me for a long second. Then he nodded just once and walked away. I watched him leave, and for the first time, I didn't feel angry. Just done. The accounts were closed, the money was wired, the property was gone. Everything they used to keep me tangled was severed, and it was quiet. Almost too quiet. It's been just over 3 months since I sold the cabin, closed the credit accounts, and cut the wires tethering me to people who only knew how to take. No one's called, no one's shown up, not even a forwarded meme from my aunt, and she used to send those like clockwork. Nothing. Absolute silence. And most days I love it. My apartment feels bigger now, cleaner, the air lighter. I stopped waking up with that low-level anxiety buzzing in my chest, wondering which emergency I'd have to fix that day. I've picked up hobbies again, reading, cooking real food. I even took a solo trip to Colorado. No itinerary. Just drove through the mountains with the windows down and no one asking where I was or what I was doing. But freedom, I've learned, comes with echoes. Not regrets. I wouldn't change a thing. But echoes of what could have been if they'd been different people. If I had a different kind of family, one that knew how to give, one that didn't turn love into a transaction. I kept the money. Of course I did. Jack never reached out again for anything. My parents didn't send a thank you for the $20,000 I wired. Instead, I checked the account it went into. Yeah, I still had access when it landed. They logged in 10 minutes after the deposit cleared, moved the money, changed the password. That was it. Like it was a refund. A couple weeks later, I got an email from Jack. No subject, just one line. You stopped and I finally felt it. I don't expect anything, just I get it now. I read it twice, then I archived it. Not because I didn't believe him. Honestly, it was the first thing he'd said in years that sounded like it came from a real place. But because there was nothing else to say. Not yet, maybe not ever. The funny part is, I think he actually thought that was enough. That understanding the damage was the same thing as repairing it. But it's not. Knowing you ruined something doesn't make it whole again. I've been seeing Dylan, our younger cousin, more often now. He's only 16, but he's sharp, quiet, observant. He never laughed when Jack and my mom made me the joke. I noticed that even back then. He's not like the rest of them. Not yet, at least. So I pick him up sometimes. Take him to the batting cages or grab burgers. I don't talk about the family much. I don't need to. He knows. I'm not trying to save him. I'm just making sure he knows someone's on his side if he ever needs to walk away too. As for my parents, I don't think they'll reach out again. Not because they've let go of the grudge, but because they don't know how to deal with a version of me that doesn't need them anymore. They don't know how to reach someone they can't manipulate, guilt, or shame. And now they never will. There are still nights where I stare at the ceiling and think about the day I walked into that brunch. About the look on Jack's face when I sat down. About my mom's smirk. About how they all thought I'd never fight back. They were so sure of it. That's what sticks with me the most. Not their cruelty, but their certainty that I would take it forever. And now that I've walked away, they're still waiting for me to come back, to cool off, to miss them enough to undo it all. But I won't. I've won. Not in a movie ending way. Not with fanfare or revenge montages. Just control, silence, peace. It's not as loud as they think a win should be, but it's mine. And that's enough for now. It's been almost a year since that brunch. A year since I sold the cabin, since I wired the money, since I told them in no uncertain terms that they were done using me, and they stayed gone. Jack never emailed again. My parents didn't call. No birthday texts, no holiday cards. Not even a passive-aggressive Christmas forwarded message. At first it was eerie. Now it's routine. I still see Dylan sometimes. He's graduating this year. We grabbed burgers last week, and out of nowhere he said, "You know they still bring you up at every gathering, right?" I didn't ask what they said. I didn't want to know. He looked at me like he wanted to ask something else. Then just said, "I get it." That was enough. I live quieter now, more deliberately. I bought a small place 2 hours outside the city. It's not fancy, but it's mine. No shared accounts, no co-sign loans, no one holding anything over my head. Just space and clean air and peace I had to carve out by burning down a piece of my past. Last week I found something weird, though. A postcard, no return address. Just a photo of a lake at sunset. On the back, in small handwriting. "We should have done better. You deserve better." No name, no signature. It could have been from any of them. Or none of them. I put it in a drawer. Didn't throw it out. Didn't reply. Some doors don't close all at once. Some take years. But I'm not opening it yet.